It measures customer loyalty. It's a word of mouth growth potential type of customer loyalty. But there's definitely some caution that needs to be exercised in terms of taking it too literally. So this is a hypothetical question. It's about a future intention, not actual behavior. And there's actually been studies that show that it can both underpredict actual behaviors of recommendations, and it can both overpredict whether people are going to recommend something. I also think that it's so commonly asked these days that probably a lot of people simply answer it in terms of general satisfaction with this brand or with this company. And I'm not going to think too carefully about whether I would actually promote this or recommend it to someone I know. It's also complicated for other reasons too. People aren't necessarily straightforward in terms of their orientation to a company or to a brand. They may want to recommend a brand or a company to their parents because they think it would be easy for them to use, but maybe it's not appropriate for X, Y, and Z other friends. There's a lot of reasons why you might place yourself kind of in the midpoint and not have that be necessarily a detractor characteristic of who you are. But yeah, ultimately there's some arbitrary lines drawn. I think one thing that's important to try and aim for though is consistency, because the consistency allows you to kind of capture change, understand how things evolve in terms of the rating, and that is likely to be more powerful than worrying too much about what a 4 versus a 5 is. The easy thing to do is to say, look at the components, that the promoters, detractors, and passives, what kind of mix you have of that matters. Two companies could end up with the same net promoter score, but have very different mixes of promoters and passives and detractors. But the kind of individual numbers, I think, are there for the taking to try and understand what's going on with customers too. So just because it kind of adds up to be a nice kind of elegant single score doesn't mean that you can't look under the hood and try and kind of understand those 0 and 1 detractors versus the 5 and 6 detractors, and what is driving that real negative reaction to the company. Things like that, I think, are useful to kind of dig in more in terms of what Net Promoter Score can tell you. Yeah, I think a lot of the times when we hear from a client that they're trying to figure out what's going on with their NPS, that it's moved down, that it's moved up, they're coming to us because they don't know why. So they don't have the whys. They don't have enough data to support an understanding of the customer beyond kind of a very basic Net Promoter Score perspective. So whether you're trying to phase out a particular method of surveying customers and clients, or whether you're trying to improve it, I think it's more important to focus on how can you add why to the equation. What are ways that you could add more data, that you can better understand why people are responding in particular ways. You may discover that there's better ways of asking these questions that help go with the why and with actual behavior or other KPIs. That can all be figured out when you have enough in the pot to really start to understand what's going on. And so I think trying to supplement with additional questions, trying to do special kind of investigations with particular customers, there's a lot behind the why that I think should come first before trying to kind of change course on a measure of satisfaction. Yeah, I mean that points to the challenge, right? In a lot of industries, word of mouth is not the name of the game. Things that are related to employee benefits, things you get through your employer, is not a choice in the way that it is in the retail market for X, Y, and Z product. So you don't go to family and friends trying to recommend it because they're going to be limited in terms of what their options are too. You probably do complain about them though. I think there is something to the point of this isn't totally removed from your experience and what you share with others. And I think that matters from a brand reputation standpoint. Lots of people, even in kind of the retirement plan space, have opinions about different retirement plan providers that may be kind of a mixture of ads they've seen on TV, as well as their own experience and things they've heard from other people. So while it's not kind of necessarily a good fit for the kind of validity behind what's going on as a recommendation, I think there is something to the point of trying to understand people's overall reaction to a retirement plan provider, even though it doesn't work quite as neatly